Starting in 2006, Cleveland City Council, along with a variety of government and nonprofit advocates, took action to combat the increased rate of foreclosure in Cleveland due to predatory lending, which later escalated to the collapse of the housing market. The combined efforts of the advocates resulted in the formation of the Cuyahoga Land Bank, along with the passage of numerous pieces of legislation and changes in policy. Hi. Welcome to Cleveland Stories. I'm Bill Brancatelli. When Cuyahoga County found itself in the epicenter of the nationwide foreclosure crisis, Cuyahoga County leaders adopted innovative approaches and policies and the formation of the Cuyahoga Land Bank. Among those involved in forming the land bank were former Treasurer Jim Rackauckas, Tim Grendell, Bob Spada, Tim Patton, Matt Dolan, Jay Westbrook, and our two guests today, Cuyahoga Land Bank President Gus Frangos and Cleveland City Councilman and Land Bank Board President Tony Brancatelli. Guys, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Hey, we're talking about a nonprofit, government-purposed entity that takes blighted properties and returns them to use. You know, many homes are rehab sold to owners, or there are some other things that have to go on with this to prepare them for economic development. Some of the homes are demolished, some turned into green space. I realize that's kind of simplifying the whole thing. Tony, tell us, what are some of the key efforts that City Council's doing with this?
Well, City Council has been working on the foreclosure crisis for some years now, going back to a conference we held in 2008. During the vice presidential debates. And we've been looking at trying to do foreclosure prevention, getting counseling organizations like ESOP, Neighborhood Housing Services, Cleveland Housing Network, and others to really reach out to folks to try and keep them in their homes and prevent their homes from going into foreclosure. That's priority number one for us. We've now been working on trying to reimagine our communities with the foreclosure crisis, trying to put housing back to productive use, as well as looking at land reuse strategies.
Gus, there's a lot more about the purpose and the function of the Cuyahoga Land Bank and its impact. What are some of the things that you're doing here?
The Cuyahoga County Land Bank, as you indicated, was an innovative tool, a legislative tool that allowed counties to create nonprofit corporations that had entrepreneurial capabilities and flexibility of transactions in order to deal with the fallout from the foreclosure crisis. So whereas we're not exactly, we're primarily a foreclosure prevention organization, although we're involved in that, it's mainly the fallout from the foreclosure crisis that has resulted in abandonment of properties, the decay in full neighborhoods. And so the land bank is there to try to actually harness and manage that chaos so that we can repurpose properties back out to productive use and ultimately gradually reestablish the tax base.
And one of the critical steps in turning this around is acquiring the properties, which I guess is a pretty involved process. How does the land bank go about acquiring the properties?
The land bank essentially, it can acquire property pretty much from anywhere, but the land bank tries to do so strategically by identifying those pipelines where a lot of the decay and a lot of the destabilization is occurring. So we get primarily most of our properties from HUD. HUD has basically guaranteed these properties, and so they have a huge inventory and they're trying to push them out. Same thing with Fannie Mae. We take a lot of properties from Fannie Mae. And then we also take a significant amount of properties from tax foreclosure. These are all vacant and abandoned properties. And then, of course, we bring properties in from banks that we've established relationships with, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and a host of others.
Tony, City Council is also working with the land bank and acquiring properties. How's the interplay between the two?
Well, the City of Cleveland has its own land bank, and it's one of the oldest land banks in the nation. And they've done a great job of assembling vacant land. And that's the primary difference between the city's land bank and the county land bank is the county takes in real estate with structures, and the city takes in vacant land. And the coordination really goes all the way down to a signed MOU between the city and the county, which talks about how we dispose of land, how we reuse land, and how we repurpose land. So it's been a great and cooperative level between not only the city of Cleveland, but also the partnership cities throughout the Cuyahoga County area.
Since there have been so many properties, you know, that we were hit with recently, and we're getting to them, some of the properties aren't going to be demolished right away, aren't going to be put into reuse right away. How important is it to maintain those properties, and how are we doing it?
Under Mayor Jackson's leadership and with the support of Cleveland City Council and our Council President Martin Sweeney, we've been able to establish resources where we can make sure that we keep all abandoned properties boarded, where we go and clean vacant land, and also clean now with new legislation. We can go right on the abandoned property land, cut the grass, pick up debris, and then assess the property owner. So it's been a priority for the administration under Keeping Cleveland Clean initiative that we go out by region and thoroughly go through and clean real estate, keep houses boarded and secured until we can find a functional reuse.
And Gus, maybe this is duplication then, as far as the land bank's role in maintaining properties?
It's essentially the same. We bring in about roughly 100 properties a month into our land bank from those sources that I indicated. And we pretty much go to every single house and we size them up internally, externally, and we board them up as needed, cut the lawn as needed, weatherize as needed in order to just keep it stable, pending reuse or pending demolition.
There are some properties that are deteriorated beyond repair, even though when you're outside you can't tell, and then you get inside and you're like, oh yeah. In these cases, demolition's an alternative. Gus, how do you decide which homes are going to be demolished?
As I indicated, there's no shortcut. We have to evaluate every single property from every single source, and we do that with what is called a level 1 inspection. And it's a sheet that pretty much has our inspectors identifying everything, every major system in the house, the mechanicals, the roof, the foundation, the doors, the windows. And those are professional inspections that we do. And when we do them and we complete them, that pretty much gives us an upfront trajectory of where that property is going to go. Not only so that we can encumber our funds, but so that we can pretty much mobilize and procure the demolition that's needed to happen. But we inspect every single one of them, and you're right. Sometimes something looks fine on the outside, but it's, decrepit on the inside.
Tony, Cleveland's plan for demolition, I mean, you've got a plan of what you're going to demolish, and then it's all of a sudden, well, where's the funding going to come from?
Well, we have put money together for the past number of years, going back to in the early years when we usually used community development block grant dollars, CDBG dollars for demolition, smaller pool of money. We would knock down the houses. This is prior to the big run-up of the condemned and distressed structures. Then the City of Cleveland, through City Council and the Mayor administration, put bonding out there to bond for demolition dollars prior to us having NSP dollars and other funds. Now we're using NSP, which is Neighborhood Stabilization Programs through the federal government. We're also using Attorney General dollars, as well as our partnership with the County Land Bank, and looking for the bigger picture, which will hopefully be dollars that we can get through qualified urban development bonds, that we can actually go after a bigger pool of resources to knock down the most distressed homes.
Gus, I think a lot of us think when demolition is like, okay, set some dynamite, blow it up, and that's it. But there are a lot of hidden costs in demolition. What are some of those? And then also, how many do you really need to demolish a year?
Well, there's not enough capacity or money to demolish everything that needs to be demolished countywide. We're talking 25 to 30,000 structures if you include commercial properties. But generally speaking, we knock down about 700 properties a year. With the Attorney General's matching funds Moving Ohio Forward program, we're probably going to be looking at 1,200 properties in 2013. And those costs consist of everything that goes into a demolition, from permitting to fill to inspections by the contractor to the actual capital and cost that actually hits the property, disposes of it into clean landfills. And those costs, they range on a routine house between $8,000 and $10,000.
Tony, you were talking about some of that before and what the city has to do as far as demolishing homes. Do you have any idea how many more need to be demolished?
Within the City of Cleveland proper, we have about 2,000 units of housing that need to be demolished today that are sitting in queue waiting for demolition resources. We passed in our recent budget to be able to hire new inspectors and go out and condemn the houses that need to be condemned that are distressed, which by the end of the year will be an additional 5,000 properties. If you look throughout the city, we're probably looking at somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 structures that need to come down. When you look at the overall inventory of the city, we have to take a look back 200 years ago. As the city developed in our peak, our city was built out for 1 million people. Now we're sitting at about 500,000 people, and that means we have a lot of excess housing units, a lot of excess substandard housing units. We're talking about houses that were built to get immigrants here years ago to go work the factories, what we call factory-built homes, houses that are 800-900 square feet on a 25-foot lot, front and back houses. Those houses are no longer functional. And as Gus Frangos pointed out, it takes a lot of effort to demolish a house because we're doing environmental assessments. Houses that were built that have asbestos, lead paint, a lot of other environmental hazards. So those houses really shouldn't even be recycled. So now we have a chance to change our footprint, reimagine our community. So we're very careful on how we look at demolition. We're also very careful that we're not demolishing houses that shouldn't be demolished, that can be saved. So right now we're sitting at about 5,000 or so houses that should be coming down to help restore our values in our real estate.
As you said, there are some homes that don't need to be demolished and can be saved. And we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the homes that are on slate or on target to come back. You're with Cleveland Stories. Stay with us.
YOU and working with these students gives not only the opportunity for us to mentor the students, but we also have the opportunity to learn from them.
Whether you're in a large or small organization, we can help you create a workforce opportunity or summer job that helps you and helps build our future workforce. Or you can volunteer in one of 4 employability skills or entrepreneurship areas. Join us. Call YOU or contact us online to find out more.
I didn't like it, I loved it.
Next year, I will be the first one here.
Welcome back to Cleveland Stories. We're with Gus Frangos and Tony Brancatelli. We've talked so much about demolition of homes, but there are a lot of homes that can be saved. And Gus, how do you determine what properties are eligible or worth going into rehab?
After we do our initial inspection, which I've described as that level 1 inspection, when we put properties aside that have good bones on them, they're within a neighborhood where there's a good market, we then create specifications for them, and what we do is we incentivize the private sector to come in and acquire these properties at a very low price, because of course our price is low. We're getting them for $1 in most cases, and so that allows a private rehabber to come in and to look at our spec, and we evaluate the rehabbers and the quality of their work and their history, and provided they pass that test and they agree to perform the specification that we prepared for them, we allow them to participate in what's called the deed in escrow program. And we've rehabbed to this point roughly 350 properties, which is remarkable for properties that have been deemed to be lemons, and we're turning them into lemonade by doing this particular program.
And how does that deed in escrow program work?
The deed in escrow program is designed to make sure that we have control over that rehab, so that we don't just transfer properties to people and they don't do what they say that they're going to do. We don't want to ever be accused of being called flippers ourselves. So what we do is we prepare that spec, the rehabber comes in, agrees to it, and then we hold that deed in escrow until the work is complete. Once the work is complete, the permits have been pulled, the permits have been closed. We, at that point, the developer pays his fee and we turn over the property. Up to this point in time, the common way of trying to gain control over rehabbers is to have deed reverters and deed restrictions and things of that sort. They're ineffectual because you've already transferred the property and you're trying to chase somebody at that point. It's much more effective to hold that property, that deed in escrow, until the work is done. Then you know for sure it was done in a quality way. And what's most remarkable to me about the deed in escrow program, this 350 or so properties that we've done, is a good close to 40% of them are homeowners. You know, and we anticipated it would be a success by having rehabbers and rent them out, but homeowners are coming in and buying these, so that's a great result.
And while you were talking, we were showing some video. You see some of the homes that the work is being done, like the home on East 172nd. If you like that, you just contact the CLB and get a great deal on a home.
That's right.
Sometimes rehabilitating a community means tearing down distressed houses, strategically assembling land, and basically thinking big. Cleveland's filled with examples of this. Just about a decade ago, the area between, along East 65th, between Broadway and Lansing, was targeted for strategic redevelopment. Tony, today that whole area has a pretty different look.
It's significantly changed over the past few years with the resources that we brought through the County Land Bank, through the City of Cleveland, and also some of the state and federal dollars that we see coming in.
Gus, you teamed up, there were some others also teaming up with you, things being done like at the Beehive school site?
The Beehive school site and some of the other things that we've done in East Cleveland are all part of the NSP II program, where the federal government granted cities on a competitive basis certain funds to do certain things, such as large-scale multifamily development like Beehive. And so the land bank collaborated in partnership with CMHA, City of Cleveland, East Cleveland, and Cuyahoga County itself. And we were able to put a nice financing package together to create a nice, beautiful multifamily building where there was once decay.
And we see some of the results, like the transformations at the borderlines, the University Circle and East Cleveland.
That's right. And what's significant there is, there are some properties, we demolished roughly properties representing 7 or 8 acres of land, which up to that point were all decayed. They had negative value. And when they were cleared out, roughly 500 feet from the Cleveland Clinic, the way the crow flies, all of a sudden you have valuable land that's suitable for development, and also it removes that negative value. And now we're able to actually partner with UCI, which we have, on the Circle East project, another beautiful multifamily market rate housing right on Euclid Avenue there at the confluence of those two cities, at the confluence of UCI and where East Cleveland come together, and it's a wonderful collaboration.
The results of these collaborations, kind of interesting, they're right here for us, but the partnership between the Cuyahoga Land Bank and the City of Cleveland has served as a model for other cities to follow, and the Cuyahoga Land Bank maintains strong partnerships with every city in which it owns real estate in Cuyahoga County. The Cuyahoga Land Bank is also a national model for innovative partnerships that put properties back to productive use. Some of the examples are a workforce development program for ex-offenders created in partnership with Career Development and Placement Strategies, Inc., and a program to house refugees in rehabilitated vacant homes created in partnership with the International Services Center. Land Bank also partners with Court Community Service for maintenance, which we were talking about earlier. Another success in Cleveland has been community gardening, and the Cuyahoga Land Bank works with a number of cities to encourage community gardening, and you had a big part in that.
Yeah, the land bank, our challenge is to take these properties, as I said, that were lemons, and convert them into lemonades, and some of them include the establishment of community gardens, South Euclid, and certain parts within the city and the county. Cities have taken these properties in, and they've just been adopted by the particular street, and they've created just the most attractive community gardens that you can imagine. And so it's a great success, seeing land like that reutilized for the benefit of the community.
And one of the groups you were talking about, Koinonia, what do they do?
Koinonia. Koinonia is an example of collaboration that this year we have tried to focus on collaborations where social service missions intersect with our brick and mortar mission. And so Koinonia is a great example of that. Koinonia services people with disabilities. Their clients range from people with mild disabilities to greater disabilities. And so they provide life services to people with disabilities, but they also provide workforce development so that their clients can work and do a variety of things, whether they're in office buildings, clerical work, and gardening. And so what we put together, and we worked with Koinonia on, is the 2-acre parcel on West 53rd in Memphis, which will be sort of the template for community gardens in collaboration with organizations like this. 2 large greenhouses, 30 or 40 community gardens for the community to come in. And it's just an extraordinary example of what you can do when social service mission, government, the land bank, everybody comes together to try to really piece something together and get beyond brick and mortar. Now you're actually helping the quality of life of people.
Tony, when we started this show, we were talking about back in 2006. Well, here we are, 6 years and maybe a little change later. Is this going pretty much the way you envisioned it? There had to be a lot of surprises and ups and downs along the way.
Well, I think this is going exactly how we envisioned it. And we talked about the city land bank being around for a long time, and now the county land bank is really the city land bank on steroids. And what we're seeing is really a lot of folks making a lot of efforts to reimagine our city. When I talk about land reuse and reimagining and new strategies, I don't have to go much further than Slavic Village and see what was the epicenter of the foreclosure crisis. In 2007, we had the highest foreclosure rate of any zip code in the entire United States. Now we're seeing ways of repurposing land. If I start off from Fleet Avenue, where we've taken vacant land from an industrial landfill that is now a job-ready site with 70 acres of land that's being filled with dredgings from the river, to First Tee of Cleveland, which is built on a landfill, coming across the Fleet Avenue Bridge, which was done with partnership with ODOT. They made a wider bridge, so now we have bicycle lanes all the way down Fleet Avenue, where we have the Botanical Gardens in partnership with the Green Corps, where we took vacant land and tore down some houses and created the Green Corps location where the community garden is at. Fleet Avenue is going to be rebuilt using the new sewer district's green infrastructure. We've assembled enough land where we can do bioswales and narrow the street all the way down to 65th Street, where we're working in partnership with the Polish Cultural Center and demolish some houses through the County Land Bank to create the Polish Gardens, additional parking for the museum, all the way up through the Warszawa Historic District with the Shrine Church of St. Stanislaus, where we're creating new townhouses, and then working in partnership with Cleveland Central Catholic, where they have a new football field built with County Land Bank land, City Land Bank land, all the way to our partnership with Third Federal Savings, where we have the new trail side housing development, which is underground and underway today. So we're starting to see where we can reuse land more strategically, more proactively, improve property values, eliminate blighted conditions, and bring back a sense of confidence in our neighborhoods.
Gus, besides what he said, what else do you see as next?
I think you have to look at this effort as a long-term effort, and we have to continue our core mission, which is to research and be strategic about what it is that we take in and how we repurpose it so that we use our money in the most efficient kind of a way. But I see expanding and really tying in with a lot of the things that Tony said, and we do a lot of that at the Land Bank, but on a county level. Many projects countywide that we have teamed up with to try to collaborate with the resources that are in these particular communities. And I think it's really, the next level is just tightening sharpening the pencil and being as strategic as possible. And the unique thing about the Land Bank is that the research capabilities that we have are second to none in the country. We're able to really identify trajectories of properties. We're able to view them not only as a property, but on a street basis, on a concentric ring base, so that we can really be catalytic in the way that we use these resources for things that Tony has articulated.
You mentioned second to none in the country, and I know this has been a model for, so we talked about earlier how it's been a model for other communities and other cities. Have you gotten any feedback yet from any of those other cities?
Throughout the country?
Right.
No question about it. I mean, every single week I get calls from other cities, other counties, other legislators wanting to try to emulate some of the things that we did. And the reason why it's so unique and we get so much feedback, and I speak all over the country about this is because we were able to harness a public mission but put it into a very entrepreneurial nonprofit that could transact. We also reformed the tax foreclosure process, which was a great impediment to being able to repurpose properties. That got built in, and then of course there's a dedicated funding stream, because you can have all these enablements, but if you have no funding, then you're sputtering. So this is probably the first time anywhere in the country where those three elements have been put together in a way that are extremely interactive and designed to be that way.
If I could add, one of the key components and one of the reasons why we've gotten national recognition for this local land bank is the partnership and collaborations that Gus and the partners have been able to create. One of the points that he makes about being strategic is also using our partners. We work very closely with Case University, Cleveland State University, the Federal Reserve, and the analysis of the data that comes out, and what Gus likes to refer to as the eye, where you can look at a region, look at a model block area, narrow down, look at the number of foreclosures in an area, look at what's coming in the market, and being able to do an analysis very closely with NeoCanDo and our partners that we have with the universities to take an academic look and then drill down into a neighborhood. It really works well, and folks are looking at that model. When I look at going to these conferences that Gus talks about on the national level, these folks come out and NeoCanDo is constantly making presentations about their mapping, working with organizations like Neighborhood Progress, Inc., and how we go back and layer and map a neighborhood. It gives you some direction and tells you where you should be going.
Okay, now that you have all that data, I guess it's a pretty easy sell to get partners. What about the beginning? How hard a sell was it to say, hey, I've got this idea, and people are like, I don't know.
The timing was right at the moment in which Jim Rokakis was out there really pushing this initiative and working with some of the political leadership along the state lines. And it was an opportunity to say, let's really start to look at how we can reshape our communities. So no, you don't want to waste a good crisis. And this opportunity, we didn't waste a crisis. They used the leverage, and Jim Rokakis was out there, and Gus and others were out testifying and using that data to map and show where the foreclosure crisis originated and how we can get out of it and how can we use these tools. It wasn't an easy sell. People were very skeptical. They were looking under the rock. They were trying to figure out what were these politicians trying to do and what were these academic folks trying to do. They saw some early returns. There's a lot of pressure on Gus and the land bank to produce. They saw the early returns, and people are starting to jump on board at an incredible rate.
For someone sitting at home watching, and they're like, hey, maybe I'm interested in a home, or I want to get involved in this, where can viewers get involved with the land bank or the other things going on with the city? Where can they get information?
With the land bank, all of our properties are online. You can go to www.cuyahogalandbank.org. And on there, right on the front face page, you'll see current properties. And there will be a list that you can look at by city, by ward, by particular zip code. And if somebody is interested in a particular property, whether you're a rehabber or you're a homeowner wanting to find something, you just go right on that website, and what you'll see is not only a picture of the property, but you'll see some basic data. And then if it's for sale, you'll actually see those specifications, the minimum requirements that we would like to happen on that property in order to transact it. And so everybody is absolutely welcome to come on that website and interact with us. You make a call, and we'll help somebody fill out an application and get it moving.
And Tony, some of the other things from the city, where do I get a hold of you?
One of the coolest components about reimagining our city is side yard expansion. That's the most common question we get. How can I get that lot? How can I expand my yard? And when you're in parts of neighborhoods in the city of Cleveland, getting that little bit of extra yard space is going to make a big difference of how long you stay in that house, raising your family, having some place to have your own little garden, to have a healthy lifestyle and grow your own vegetables. So the land bank for the city of Cleveland has been very aggressive in getting vacant lots to homeowners. I would suggest call the city of Cleveland 216-664-2000 and ask for the city land bank, or you can go on to city.cleveland.oh.us and you can get directed to the city land bank and figure out how you can get that $1 lot for your ability to expand your own personal home.
That's going to extend my grass cutting time.
So
I'd like to thank you for that. Gus, Tony, we really appreciate you guys coming in. And of course, you'll keep us updated on all the different things as we continue with this, correct?
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you.
And that's some of it from here from Cleveland Stories. Thank you so much for joining us again. We'll put the contact information on the screen one more time, and hope to hear from you soon. Have a great day.